Hey, listeners, welcome back. So we're on chapter 3 this week. If you've been following along on some mini-sodes about my new book, We Want You, an allyship guide for people with power. Head over to nextpivotpoint.com. If you have not already, you can get the free companion workbook, download it directly from nextpivotpoint.com, and even get information about bulk orders. If you're interested in ordering for more than 20 folks, we'll give you a hefty discount and some freebies to celebrate. So let's dig into chapter 3. We're talking about allyship benefits, the what's in it for me, the WIIFM. So, a couple things about diversity, equity, and inclusion work. It has always been change management work. It's always been threaded through the lens of change, and change is hard for people. We have to recognize the benefits. When we're going through change, when we're going through cultural change, when we're going through social justice movements, as we have over the last several years, it can trigger a loss aversion. What are we losing versus what are we gaining? And so it's really important that we filter our fears through that lens of rather than focus on what I'm losing here, what am I gaining access to? What am I gaining in my life? And the good news is there is no shortage of research about the benefits of allyship. So probably my favorite 3 studies, one, McKinsey and Company, it's not a perfect report, but every other year they're generous enough to survey thousands and thousands of people around the globe. And they consistently find folks with diverse teams that are diverse perform better, 39% better to be exact. And so who wouldn't want those healthy returns? We also find higher rates of innovation associated with diverse teams because you have different perspectives, different lived experiences. It makes sense that we would yield more new ideas, more robust ideas, solutions to problems that are more comprehensive as well. And then my personal fave is Harvard's research study on happiness, the longest study on happiness dating back to the 1940s. And they found the biggest predictor of happiness in life is the quality of your relationships. What a great place to start. How can you be better ally to people in your personal life, in your professional life, and all phases of your life? How can you show up more inclusively so that they feel seen, they feel heard, that they feel a sense of belonging? There's actually a reciprocal effect. Allyship doesn't cost us anything, maybe a little bit of time, like a little headspace, maybe some time to read a book like this, but it's pretty darn cheap and free to have access to more happiness in your life. Because as humans, we're social species. We are wired to connect with others, and it is a primal need to want to be helpful to the group so that we survive and we can have protection from the group. And so this is a very visceral need, and isolation and loneliness, as Surgeon General has found, is almost as uh, toxic as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So think about a chance to be an ally, better business outcomes, higher chances of profitability, innovation, even higher revenue rates, and more happiness for you personally. The last reference that Monster.com found actually a few years ago, they surveyed Gen Z. So these are folks that are entering the workplace, folks that were born after 1997. Yes, they're entering the workforce. And they have an unwavering expectation for diversity and inclusion. Why? Because they grew up in a very diverse and consciousness raising society. They went through the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, highest rates of immigration associated with this generation. And so there's just a natural tapestry of diversity for young people and an expectation that the workplace will work differently for them. And unlike past generations, they have a lot more access to power by sheer numbers. They are going to eclipse baby boomers in the short term and even millennials in the longer term. And so this generation is going to have much more of a voice than past generations, and they have quite a few more expectations for us. So if you want to be relevant to future generations, why not try allyship, inclusive leadership? So, a couple exercises I mentioned in this chapter to really map out what's in it for you as an ally. Because if you don't have a strong why for allyship, I promise you will not stay with it long term. We saw this with a flood of people, jumping in the deep end of allyship back in 2020, 21. And where are they now? right? Try the baby pool first. And that starts with, why is this important to me? Why do I not make time for this? Why not go play a game or a hobby? There's other things you can do with your time. Your time is finite. And that's really the only cost of allyship is your time. So how will you prioritize your time? How will you continue to show up? Why is this important to you? For me, it's about future generations. I have 3 kids. I want the world to be more inclusive for them. I have a strong sense of fairness and justice for my values. So this is core to who I am as a human being. Probably different for you. So really think about why. Why is this important? Why will I continue to show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard? That's the mark of a true ally. And so kind of build out your own personal SWOT analysis. What are my strengths as an ally? What are my weaknesses? How does that turn into opportunities and threats that I might need to mitigate or leverage as strategies? For me, I am a skilled facilitator. I love to do research. I am a college professor. And so, how can I use those as strengths as an ally? How can I help facilitate connections for others? How can I provide content that's meaningful and actionable for people? I host International Allyship Day every year, not to make money, actually loses money, but it's really to facilitate connection and to show up as an ally. That's part of my ally role that I've mapped out in my own SWOT analysis. So think about that and how that you could start to turn these things into action. So we are going to get to action, I promise, in the next section at a team basis. But there's a reason we need to be introspective up front, because if we don't dial in on the why, think about how we want to show up, what our strengths are, how we can play into our strengths versus focusing on our weaknesses. We're going to be more authentic. We're going to be more helpful. We're just going to be more effective as allies. And then the last piece of the puzzle with the WIIFM is allyship's leadership. 21st century leadership is global in nature. The world has gotten incredibly small. It is very common to have work teams that work completely across the planet. And so if you want to be relevant to future customers, to future employees, to your naturally diverse and global workforce and customer base, then you really don't have a choice but to embrace diversity and inclusion. And the path to leveraging this diversity is through allyship, showing up for people that are different from you and welcoming them into the conversation and sharing our power together as allies. So that's chapter 3, the WIIFM. Hopefully you have a strong WIIFM. You've gone through your SWOT analysis. You kind of thought about your ally journey and what your starting point is. Chapter 4 that we're going to dig into next week starts to talk about your ally role and mapping out your ally role. So we will get to action, I promise. We've been intentionally introspective so that we can really be intentional with our actions when we show up as allies. So if you haven't yet, go over to nextpivotpoint.com. You can get your free workbook to follow along. You can get information on how to order the book, how to leave a review for the book, which is highly encouraged. That helps other folks find it if you're passionate about this. And then even information on bulk orders. So 20 or more books will make a really nice incentive for you to share this with your team or your next book club get together. Thank you, allies. Thanks for continuing to show up. I will see you back next week.